It's time, Michael. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Halloween 2 Revisited. This is my fourth revisited video that I've done, probably more. I've done Halloween 2, I've done Halloween, did The Incredible Hulk, Rocky 4, yeah, so I've done quite a few revisited videos. And basically what that is I take a review that I did really early on in my review days, and the Halloween franchise was the first franchise that I delved into. So I'm going to be doing a lot of these Halloween movies. One, because it's my favorite franchise. Two, because I have a lot more to say. And three, I'd like to add a little bit more production value to that. And plus, I like Revisited because I kind of have carte blanche. I can dig in and really talk as long as I want and really break the movie open and dissect it, talk about some favorite scenes. So that's what we're going to be doing. But first off, let's talk about the backstory of Halloween 2. It was directed by Rick Rosenthal, who would later go on to direct Halloween Resurrection, which is a vastly inferior film. But there could be a lot of variables to that, because when you are making a film, it is a collaborative effort. And he was mostly using the crew from the very first Halloween. So the crew from Halloween 2, completely different crew than Halloween Resurrection. And so that's probably a big part of the problem. And in Halloween 2, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill had a heavy hand in this production. John Carpenter actually wrote the script. Deborah Hill came back to produce. But originally, Tom Lee Wallace, who was pretty much like a set designer from the first Halloween, he was going to direct Halloween 2. He is a childhood friend of John Carpenter. They went to school together. After Tom Lee Wallace read the script, he was not into it at all. And the hard part was having to tell his close friend John Carpenter that, hey, I got to bow out. I can't do this. I don't like the vision of this film. And I would probably guess that Carpenter didn't fault him too much, because Carpenter has stated himself that when he wrote Halloween 2, he didn't really know where to go with the story. His story was finished with the first one. And so they offered him this massive check, and he pretty much had to come up with a story. So at like 2 o'clock in the morning, the guy is just drinking a 6-pack of beers, and I'll make Laurie Strode his sister. That's pretty much how it happened. And then we have our story. We go from there. The finished product, I think, is one of the better sequels out of the whole franchise. One thing that Halloween 2 has going for it is that it is the ultimate double feature. It takes place the moment the first one ends. Not very many sequels do this. Because you had a lot of the same crew members from the first movie, it feels like a continuation of the second one. You had Dean Cundy, the cinematographer, come back and do the same for this one. He pretty much had the template. You had the exact same mask. Even though it looked a little different because of the wear, if you really look at it, you can tell it's still the same mask from the first one. And again, you had Carpenter coming back to kind of act as an umbrella over this thing, making sure everything comes out okay. Which, on a side note, kind of makes me feel good about this new Halloween movie that Danny McBride is writing, because, again, John Carpenter is executive producing this, so he's going to have a little bit more say in what's going on. But the first scene I'd love to talk about is the opening pumpkin scene. That iconic pumpkin scene from the first one, I think Halloween 2 actually ups the ante. Not with just the presentation of the pumpkin, but also the music, the execution. It is creepier, and the music, done mostly by Alan Howarth. John Carpenter pretty much gave him the music from the first movie, and Alan Howarth really just added his own flavor over the top of it. So it's kind of what I like to call a thicker version of the first theme. And again, I think it's a better theme than the first Halloween. As a matter of fact, Halloween 2 is probably my favorite theme using the original music. I just love that synth sound, and it's done to perfection in this one. And I have to give Alan Howarth credit for that, but I still have to give Carpenter credit because most of this is music from the original. Also, we have Jamie Lee Curtis coming back as Laurie Strode, and we have Donald Pleasence coming back as Dr. Loomis. Donald Pleasence really just brought his A game to this and every other sequel that he did after this movie. Jamie Lee Curtis, she did a fine job, I think, but I don't think she rose to the occasion as much as Donald Pleasence did in this sequel. One problem is she had to wear a wig through the whole thing, and I'm sure that that's probably uncomfortable for an actress. And another thing is, she doesn't do much in this movie. She is in a hospital the whole time. Sometimes she's heavily medicated. So she doesn't have that vigor that she has in the first movie. She does kind of, quote unquote, come to life in the third act. And that third act, we will get to that, is probably one of the best third acts out of the whole franchise. But Donald Pleasence comes back, and we all love those Dr. Loomis speeches that he gives, and he gives another really good one in this one. But this time, Sheriff Brackett is mostly out of the picture because of what happened to his daughter Annie. So we have Deputy Hunt.
Damn you. Sorry. What have you done?
I haven't done anything.
You let him out!
Who was actually going to be a returning character in Halloween Returns, but that script got abandoned. But Loomis spends most of his time with Deputy Hunt throughout most of this movie. And one thing I dug about this one is they kind of delve a little bit deeper into the holiday of Halloween. I would even say Halloween 2 probably feels most like the holiday of Halloween out of all the movies, except for maybe part 6. I mean, all of them, of course, they're called Halloween. They're going to have that Halloween flair. But some movies are going to stand out a little bit more than others. Halloween 2 is one of those movies. And one reason is because they talk about Samhain, or I don't know how some people say it. Some people say it like Samhain or something like that. But I love that scene in the school on the chalkboard when they talk about Samhain, and Dr. Loomis gives that whole speech about what it means and the Lord of the Dead. That's all just exposition candy, really. Now, we have some new characters here too, and some pretty decent ones. First one is Jimmy, who is kind of the love interest of Laurie Strode. And he's the one character that lives throughout the whole movie. I mean, it's kind of implied. You don't really see it unless you're watching the TV cut, but he does live. And he is the one that seems to really care the most about Laurie because he does have feelings for her. But the one character that really stands out in this movie is Bud. And I can just let this clip right here speak for itself. I don't really even have to say it because I can't do it justice like Bud's own voice can.
Amazing grace, come sit on my face. Don't make me cry, I need your pie.
Look, why don't you just shut up, all right?
But we've never seen like I guess a white trash element of the Halloween series up until we get to the Rob Zombie movies. Bud might be the closest to a Rob Zombie type character, and he's not even close to like probably the mildest Rob Zombie character. But I like Bud because he's just so different. He's a playboy, or at least he thinks he's a playboy, even though he's way past his prime. But the one scene that everybody remembers from Halloween 2, if you ask them, they're gonna mention the hot tub scene with Nurse Karen and Bud. I don't know how Bud hooked that up. Gotta give him mad props, but he did it. But if you do a little digging behind the scenes on that infamous scene, it's actually pretty interesting because Pamela Susan Shoop, she did not want to get naked for that scene. And of course, it didn't help that on that day, everybody was there. And director Rick Rosenthal promised her that there would be, a minimum number of crew members there, but that didn't happen, so that probably didn't help matters. And according to actor Leo Rossi, that hot tub water was freezing cold. So I think the word he used was raisin, something like that. But this is a really effective kill. I mean, early on in the movie, you can already tell that they've really upped the ante when it comes to blood. Tension kind of takes a back seat in Halloween 2, and this is the era of Friday the 13th. And all these movies, the more blood, the better. And Halloween 2 kind of had to fit that mold. Carpenter got a lot of pressure from studio heads. We want this movie to be like those Friday the 13th movies, and that's what he did. You had scenes like the girl in the house at the beginning of the movie next to the L rods. You had scenes like the needle going into the temple. These are scenes that you didn't see in the original. Everything in the original was stuff that you didn't see. It was about tension. Myers himself didn't even kill until at least the middle of the movie and on. In this movie, Myers kills within the first 10 minutes. So if we're gonna show those kills, let's at least make them interesting, and that's what they did. Halloween 2 does have some interesting and creative kills, but like I said, the hot tub scene is definitely one of the most memorable for obvious reasons. Another kill is Nurse Jill. Myers comes behind her, puts the scalpel in her, picks her up, and then we see her clogs fall to the floor. Love that kill. Perfectly done. Oh, and one more scene I had to mention, which is so effective actually, is the razor blade scene. With the mother, she's taking the kid to the hospital because he's got a razor blade in his mouth. And that is one of the scenes that Carpenter himself actually shot after the fact because they needed to fill in some more more graphic scenes, I guess. But that scene to me is genius because it captures the holiday of Halloween and all those stories that we hear about the candy that we get, and you have to watch it because there could be razor blades in the candy. And they actually put that in the movie, which I thought was awesome. And it's one of the creepiest scenes because it literally looks like the kid cut himself with the razor blade. Now let's talk about Myers for a bit. Dick Warlock, who was a stunt coordinator, actually got the part kind of, not really by accident, but they didn't have the position of Myers filled yet. And he was hired as a stunt coordinator, not as Myers. And so when he came in, he was walking down the hall and he looked in this room and there the mask was. And so he had to go meet director Rick Rosenthal. So he put the mask on, stood there in the door, and just stared at the director. And eventually he took it off and he said, "Hey, can I have the part?" And Rick Rosenthal said, "Sure." It was that easy. And he got to keep the mask, he got to keep the suit, everything. Because this was going to be the last time we were going to see Myers. They were going to put the character to bed after Halloween 2. But Dick Warlock, he's not my favorite Myers, but he's definitely one of the best. Because of the glide, I guess. He's one of those that sometimes is called Terminator Myers. He just has this kind of more of a glide than a walk. And he moves really slow, almost too slow. But his pace in that third act was perfect. I think it ramped up the tension even. And I think it was a big part of why that third act is one of the best third acts out of the whole series, in my opinion. And let's go ahead and talk about that third act. It must have been exciting to write this movie because this was going to be the last movie. You know, Carpenter could kill Myers in this one for good. So he really, you know, he had no limitations. He could do whatever he wanted. And the ending in this movie is probably the biggest as far as like, I mean, there's an explosion at the end of it. But the scene in the gas room when Loomis is turning on all the cylinders and he knows that, hey, I'm gonna have to give my life to kill Myers to save Laurie. To me, that's the one ending that had that ultimate feeling of sacrifice because Loomis, he had to do this. And that really cemented the character Loomis as such a great character because this is a guy who was so obsessed with taking down Myers that he was willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice. Now, Halloween 2 is not a perfect movie. As a matter of fact, it's not even my favorite sequel. It's definitely up there though. It's probably my number 3 or number 4. It's really great. And if I'm watching one, usually I'll go to 2 because it feels like a double feature. It really does. But it does have its problems. I think one thing is it does have a snail's pace sometimes, especially in the middle. You know, it's like they had to fill these gaps with kills because they didn't want Myers to actually get to Laurie for, you know, a certain amount of time. So you had to put scenes like the Elron scene. You had to put scenes like the Ben Tramer explosion scene. You know, all these expository scenes to fill gaps. And it doesn't help that Myers himself walks like a snail. And also I mentioned Jamie Lee Curtis earlier. That's another problem. This character is really laying in a bed for most of the movie. I do like the hospital setting though. It's just a really creepy setting. Hospitals creep me out to begin with. And when the lights are off and then you got Myers walking, roaming the hallways, I love that. That's great. But I think if they could have tightened up the script a bit, it could have been one of the greatest sequels ever. Now there is an official TV version of this. It was released with the 10-disc deluxe edition box set. And the TV version is worth talking about because it is so different. Now back in the 80s when horror movies came to TV, they cut out everything. These days you could show Halloween 2 with, you know, uncut and be completely fine. I mean, we have shows like The Walking Dead that are just 10 times more graphic than Halloween 2 was. But back then, all the kills had to be cut out. So they had to put in deleted scenes. They had to completely reorganize the order of the movie. So a lot of the scenes, they feel out of whack. And they even had to speed up some of the scenes, which is kind of weird. But when I watch the movie, I definitely go straight for the theatrical cut. I don't watch the TV cut. It's got some nice scenes in there, some nice alternate scenes. So it's more of a gee whiz type cut to watch. But it's not like, say, the Halloween 6 producer's cut, which is a fully fleshed out movie with a completely different third act. No, this is the same movie, but everything's just kind of rearranged. It's really edited poorly, if you ask me. So in the end, guys, my rating for Halloween 2 is a high purchase worthy. It's definitely one of my most watched sequels. I love the hell out of this movie, actually. And that's gonna wrap up Halloween 2 Revisited. Had a blast doing this. Let me know what you guys think of Halloween 2 in the comments, and let me know what you think of this Revisited series. Do you enjoy doing them? Because I sure do. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks on Facebook, where we talk horror all day, every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. You can follow me on social media at Drumdums. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. If you like what I'm doing, guys, please hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys for all you do. I will have an Amazon affiliate link below for Halloween 2, and I'll put the box set down there too. Helps out the channel. If you click on that link, if you can get the box set for a good price, jump all over it, because it's such a great box set. One of the best. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.